Welcome to the ArmaniTalks Show, episode 36. I'm your host, Armani Talks. In the show, I'm covering all things communication skills related. And in today's episode, we are going to be talking about so many different topics from office politics to going to weddings, being social appropriately, and how to find your perfect match on the online space. If you're ready and excited, drop that like for me right on below and hit subscribe to always stay updated with the latest Armani Talks shows. So, to get started, office politics, I want to first of all talk about the corporate space. Nowadays, it feels as though a lot of people diss corporate work. They say that it's not the smart thing to do. They say that you should just have a business and that's about it. I somewhat disagree with that. I think it's smart for all men to have a side hustle, something, whether it's consulting, whether it's doing real estate, whether it's you publishing books. But at the same time, once you are trying to get your business off the ground, you are going to need money. There's always groups of people that say, you don't need that much money. Or some people will say something like, you don't need money to make money. And then they will start giving you the middle aspect of the process. They'll talk about how that investor is giving you money and now you are parlaying the investor's money into making more money. But they never tell you the beginning of the journey, just the middle. They never talk about all the flights that you need to book, all the hotels that you need to book, how you need to build a prototype in the first place so the investors even take your meeting. They never talk about that. So in the beginning stage, you absolutely do need money. It is very rare for you to make money without spending any money in the beginning. So you need money. The question is, how do you get that money? Do you get that money through your job? Do you get that money through Uber, DoorDash, Lyft? Do you get that money through Fiverr? Do you get that money through an inheritance from your great 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 grandparents? How do you get that money? And jobs are just one vehicle out there. You want to think of them as vehicles. And as a matter of fact, you want to think of your job as an angel investor to your side hustle. When you have this type of mentality, you create a win win dynamic. There are people out there that will pin the two against each other. They'll be like, well, I hate my job. I'm about to quit this at any moment as soon as my side hustle does good. But if you view your job as an angel investor to your side hustle, now it's a win win dynamic. Now you start to get better at both things. For example, with your side hustle, what do you want it to do? You want it to generate more cash flow. How is it going to generate more cash flow? If you pour more money back into it. How can you pour more money back into it? You get more money from your main hustle, your job. And how do you get more money from your job? You become a better worker. By becoming a better worker, you improve your skills. You learn management. You learn how to deal with different teams in order to drive a resolution. And the better that you get at your main job, the more money that you get, the excess money you could put back into your side hustle, and you keep growing it, growing it, growing it. And eventually, the side hustle becomes bigger than your main hustle. So in the beginning stages, you are viewing your job as a angel investor. And sometimes you have to do that because if you're living in the South, then you're not going to have too many opportunities to find all these different investors. Instead, you're going to have to invest in yourself. And the way that you invest in yourself is by doing good in all aspects of your life. You want to have that mentality where if people are paying you, you're going to do the best job that you possibly can with the knowledge that you have, with the tools that you have, and with the resources that you have. That is what separates a winner from a loser. A loser, on the other hand, will have all the tools in the world, but somehow they still mess up. They mess up because they don't have the right attitude. You want to have the right attitude, and the better attitude that you have, the more that you improve your emotional intelligence. And here's something should know. The better worker that you are in life, the better your social skills will become. Some of the people with the worst social skills are also the worst workers. Because being a bad worker has ripple effects. Chances are you lack empathy. Chances are you lack planning, you don't know how to plan your time appropriately, chances are you don't know any form of critical thinking. But these types of skills come in handy when you are trying to be social. I realized that my job has made me a really great communicator. And whenever I'm going to these social events, for example, recently I went to a wedding, I saw how many different people I had to talk to. So many different people, so many different personalities. Some conversations are effortless. It's like you meet them, you click with them, you vibe with them, and you want to talk to them more. Other people, on the other hand, are somewhat difficult to talk to. There was this one period in this wedding that I went to recently where I'm at this table with this girl. And normally with this girl, I don't ever talk to her one on one. I'm normally talking to her when we are all in a group. But at this stage, a lot of people went to get food, and me and this girl, we bought our plates back the first. So I'm just in this table with this girl, and I'm trying to talk to her. She doesn't say that much. So I'm like, how's work going? She says, well, actually, I just got laid off. Oh, okay. Laid off from what type of job? So, I could be on the lookout. He's like, I was in marketing. I was like, oh, okay, I'll look out for some marketing analyst positions. And you could tell she got pissed. She's like, director. I'm like, what? She's like, I'm a marketing director, not a marketing analyst. And now I felt embarrassed because a marketing analyst position is a completely junior role, while a director is high up there. So she's high up there. So now I have to pivot. I'm like, how'd you like it? Did you like being a director? What are some stuff that you worked on? And now I was able to come back into a good groove with this girl. Now, this ability for me to navigate awkward conversations were things that I learned from being a good worker. There have been plenty of times when the client wanted one thing, but we couldn't give that to the client. And instead of us just saying, well, you're out of luck, what we told the client was, listen, this is not occurring the way that you wanted it to, but we are making paths to making it occur like the way you want it to. Here are some timelines. I will give you your next update in a week. So now I'm learning the whole art of going through the testy conversation, still providing updates, still understanding and empathizing with the client to make sure that they have a good customer experience. These are all stuff that I learned while working, and all these skill sets can be applied to your social life. So that's how you want to think. You don't want to be working a job and not see any parallels to your personal life. There are people, for example, that work these call center jobs. They're always getting yelled at, right? Or they have to navigate these tricky conversations. And rather than learning anything to take to their social life, they just have a bad attitude. Now, mind you, I think call center jobs are some of the worst jobs out there. I call it the blue collar work of white collar work. Sure, it's technically a white collar job because you're in this AC room, but it's a blue collar work because you're doing all this manual labor of talking and talking and talking. It's a tough job. I 100% get it. But ultimately, that type of tough job will make you a better communicator. The only way that you can become a better communicator is through friction. There is never a time that you're going to be a great communicator just by talking to pleasant people all the time. And if you are talking to pleasant people all the time, this is not always a good thing. Chances are you are becoming more sensitive and you have no clue because you're talking to all these pleasant people, all these people who are asking you, how's your day? Anytime you're having a bad day, they're asking you follow up questions. Anytime you're delayed with something, they're super understanding. You're getting this false sense of what the world is like. You're living in a bubble. But one day, you're going to meet a straight shooter. And that straight shooter is going to be like, why isn't this done the way that I wanted it to? Are you an idiot? No, are you an idiot? You're like, What? Now, granted, this is a situation where you can get upset, but let's say they don't even call you an idiot. Let's say, how come you didn't do what you were supposed to do? A question like this may make you go in a spiral, especially if you are not used to having tough conversations. Now, sometimes you will have to put yourself in a position to have a tough conversation where you have to confront someone. Maybe someone is disrespecting you in public. Maybe they're always cracking jokes on your behalf whenever you're around a group of people, and now you have to confront them. So, this is something you have a choice with. Other times, you're going to be placed in these scenarios. In my corporate work, for a long time, I would just get tossed into these meetings and people were grilling me, and I had to deal with disrespect. And I had to deal with it so many times that eventually I learned not to take it personally. You don't just want to stop there where you're not taking it personally. You want to eventually thrive in it. You want to eventually say thank you after every rough call. Anytime that someone is confronting you a lot in these workplace calls, right after you're done, you want to say thank you. And each time you say thank you, you'll feel physical sensations in your body. Your body feels tougher now, and you start to become more enthusiastic. It is tougher to kill your spirit. That is how you deal with tough calls and you get stronger from it. So you may see people that never have tough conversations, they're shielded from the world, and you may envy them. You may think, well, how come I have to always deal with this? How come they don't? Doesn't matter. They are not building micro skill sets. You are. Now let's transition to another topic. How do you behave if you are always the one that's getting roasted in a group? Let's talk about the whole group roasting you, and let's talk about just one individual roasting you. Whenever it's a whole group roasting you, you got to understand sometimes you got to roll with the punches. For my childhood crew, whenever we get together, there's a period where we're just roasting people. Okay? These are people I've known for 10 to 15 years. Sometimes I'll just invite them over just to roast them. So, as a group of men, this is how we bond. Us roasting one another, laughing, someone else adding on to our joke, and another person adding on, and we're all firing these jokes on one guy, and he's the target for this day because he did something silly. Next time we hang out, there's a new target. This is fun. So you don't want to be one of those guys who it's you're the target this time, and you're like, well, why is everyone making fun of me? Because if you're not a good sport, especially with men, then you're never going to build a brotherhood. That's just how men roast one another. So sometimes you got to roll with the punches. Other times you want to, fight back. If the entire group is always roasting you, some people they like it. So if you like that type of attention, whatever, do whatever you got to do. But if you don't like that attention and they are being trained to always make fun of you, you got to fight back. And you got to fight back with, in my opinion, the easiest target. Not the not the toughest target, the easiest one. And when you are getting the better of the easiest target, now these guys see that there's friction when making fun of you. Where whenever we're in a group and if the whole group is always making fun of one person, chances are there's no friction. Actually, I think they like it. If they don't like it and they're not introducing any friction, I'm just thinking that they like it. But if they fight back every now and then, and not in a malicious sort of way, the way that you fight back getting roasted is to roast yourself. Uh, and not roast yourself. I mean, roast as well. Like, roast, participate within the whole roasting dynamic. You need to do that as well. So, I'll give you a real life example. There was a time, a long time ago, let's just call them the basketball boys. All the basketball boys, we would play basketball, and right after, we would all hang out in one of our buddies' place. And there was this one guy that would always get roasted all the time. And within the group, I was one of the guys that was roasting this guy. I thought he liked it, by the way. Um, I was in the group, another guy in the group, another guy. Long story short, there was one fat guy within the group that would always roast this target. And this guy one time just had enough. And instead of fighting against the whole group, which would be reckless, he just started to roast the fat guy. He'd be like, shut up, Pumbaa. Shut up, Pumbaa. Pumbaa is the pig from Lion King. He would just keep going back at at the fat guy over and over again. And eventually, we started to build that reputation as this guy doesn't just take it, this guy will actually fight back. I mean, he's making a fool out of Pumbaa. So nowadays, we're kind of focusing on Pumbaa a little bit more. And this is another way to make fun of people, by the way. You don't want to have too many different jokes. You just want to have one joke that you keep repeating over and over again. For example, this guy calling the fat kid Pumbaa. When you keep calling him Pumbaa, 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 eventually we want to call him Pumbaa. And just like that, in her eyes, uh, your roasting credibility has just lowered because you are Pumbaa. Who are you to roast anyone? But if this guy was like, hey, you're fat. Hey, your name should be Pumbaa. Hey, I'm thinking about calling you Timon today. Now, it's a little too scattered. Us as the group, we don't know how to properly address this fat guy versus this guy who keeps getting picked on, calling the fat guy Pumbaa and just sticking to that. There was this one time where there was this one guy who could barely speak English, and for some reason, he just started roasting me, and he kept saying that I dressed like a homeless guy. I'm like, bro, I could barely understand you. Speak English better. He's like, homeless, homeless. And he just kept saying that like a mantra. And eventually, I got tired out, and he technically won. And he started to build that reputation about me. Oh, Armani the homeless. Right? So he won in that scenario. So if an entire group is making fun of you, you want to find the weakest target, the one that you could easily make fun of, and you want to find one word that you can keep calling him, or one joke, one central idea that you keep punching him with over and over and over again. And now this guy is labeled as another joke, and the group sees that you will actually fight back. So this is how you fight back against a group. Now, what if one individual is always confronting you or making jokes on your behalf? This is when you gotta actually, in my opinion, be a little hostile. I don't think you should be joking too much unless you're a funny guy, but sometimes you wanna be a little hostile and show them what's up. There was this one time I was in this meeting, undergrad meeting, and I kept trying to get my ideas across. And there was this one girl who would never say anything of substance, but whenever I would speak, she had this battery pack, and now she wanted to just disagree with me, right? Or she would just make fun of my idea and get a bunch of people laughing at me. But I'm the guy that is suggesting the ideas. So why are you laughing at me for? You should be respecting me. But she's always just making jokes, making jokes. And one day I confront her. I said, hey, I need you to stop that because you're not saying anything of substance. You're just wasting everyone's time. I need you to stop that. All right? Kind of raised my voice at her. And initially she just like, oh, it's just a joke. It's just a joke. What's the big deal? See, this is a tough thing as well when you're a guy that's arguing with a girl. The girl is always going to be, brave when she's insulting you. But when you raise your voice at her, now you're seen as this monstrous force. But you need to stand your ground because multiple people, they're going to be like, no, don't raise your voice at the girl. Come on, she's just this poor girl that doesn't do anything wrong to you. Not knowing that, or actually knowing that every week she's the one that is instigating, you stand your ground. You're like, no, man, she's always wasting people's time. I need you to know that. Am I making myself clear? Very loud, assertive. And that's when, if you're a guy, your voice naturally, a lot of you guys already have deep voices, which is good. You don't always have to do this in front of other people. You could talk one on one, but if it's not working one on one, it's not working through text, you got to make an example out of them in front of people. And this is something you don't want to do. I get it, but sometimes you have to do it just so people don't get in the habit of disrespecting you. And it doesn't matter if it's in the workplace, if it's in social interactions, sometimes you need to do it. And at first, people are going to be like, no, no, don't yell, don't yell. You stand your ground, all right? You ride the waves of everyone turning against you. And then eventually, people are going to be like, no, 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 actually, no, no, I see where he's coming from. He has every right to be upset. And now you are going to be framed as the logical person, while this other person is going to be framed as a petulant child. So that's what you got to do. Now, if they're fighting back, you keep fighting back. You keep doing this, man. Because I noticed that there's some guys that's always getting roasted on by one person. They're just laughing. I'm like, dude, man, say something, man. Just say something. Like, it doesn't have to be anything of substance the first time. Just say, "Hey, shut up, bro." Right? Stop talking so much. Right? Like, show a little bit of frustration and introduce friction. Don't get in the habit of just removing friction so people can make fun of you. Introduce friction. Keep introducing it. Say one word one day, like forget it, right? Say a phrase another time. Say a sentence another time. Keep introducing friction, and people will stop making fun of you. So you don't want to like create that reputation for yourself where people are always making fun of you. Sometimes it's funny. Sometimes it builds camaraderie. But when it goes from being jokes, being something of harmless fun, to now it hurting your feelings, or other people are feeling sorry for you, now you got to introduce friction, and you can't always be too respectful. Being too respectful is something that is also holding you back. During my time working, I noticed that there's a big difference between an associate and a vice president and an executive director and a managing director. I always thought managing directors were like the most calm, zen people out there, but they are one of those people that can get disrespectful really quickly. Um, Same with executive directors. VPs, they know how to get disrespectful in doses. Associates get disrespectful behind the scenes when like no eyes are on them, right? They're talking to other associates. A lot of the cooler talk, the water cooler talk, just gossiping and stuff. But they never do that in front of the main decision makers. Or sometimes you need to punch the decision makers in the face, especially when things are not going your way and you know for a fact you are not in the wrong. And by punching them in the face, I mean you need to disagree with them in a defiant sort of way, especially when they are wrong. There are times when someone is wrong and other people are just letting them be wrong, where you want to say, no, 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 no. Listen, you say the person's name. Obviously, you don't want to be disrespectful, but you're punching them in the nose by not immediately letting them have their way. Okay? So, in my opinion, there is an art of being strategically angry, not only in your social life, but in your work life as well. And in a weird sort of way, this is how you rise up the corporate ranks. If you're always like Mr. Passive, you're always just saying, yep, yep, I'll do this, I'll do that too. That's not a good sign. Actually, when you are capable of getting angry at your job, that in some ways is a sign that you are learning. When you are always just super positive or you're super nervous, when someone is saying, hey, send out that report, hey, send out these comms, hey, write back on this email, and you're like, yeah, sure, sure, sure. Or you're like, oh my goodness, they're telling me to do it. Okay, okay. Instead of being overly optimistic, now you're overly scared. Both of these are bad. Overly like, yeah, I'll do this, I'll do that. Or, oh no, I'll do this, I'll do that. Both are bad. But when you get to that point in your career where you're like, why is my team doing this? Why isn't your team doing this? No, your team should be doing this, not me. You even having that thought, that anger, shows that you know how to draw boundaries. That means you are understanding your job better. You are understanding your role well enough to draw a boundary from other teams and their roles. Other people are always going to try to get you to do something. And if you don't say, no, 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 this isn't for my team, then people will keep dumping their work onto you. And if you're a manager, you need to have this skill set where I used to have this manager a long time ago, and he would never have my back. He would never have the team's back. Whenever other teams would attack us, be like, hey, how come you guys aren't doing this? My manager's like, yeah, how come we aren't doing this, guys? I'm like, bro, it's not for us, man. It's for this team to do. They're putting their work onto us, but my manager would never have my back. And when my manager wouldn't have my back like that, I started to lose respect for him. Where a good manager is like, nope, hey, don't talk to my workers right now. Talk to me. I told my workers not to respond back to that email. What's up? Don't ask them why they didn't respond back. I'm the one who told them not to. And you have their back. And you do this a couple of times in public, and the workers start to respect you more. The worker is like, wow, my manager is actually serving as a shield from the outside world for me. So you got to know how to create your boundaries. And at work, I would say when you are capable of getting angry, it shows a certain level of you're starting to understand your job. Now, don't be so angry to a point where you're coming off unhinged, you're not doing what you're supposed to do, but come off angry every now and then, and show that you care, show that you know the boundaries, and show that other people are not going to push you around. Do it like that. So these are some ways in order to play office politics in the real world. And I believe the better at your job that you get, the more socially skilled that you can get as well. Weddings, though, man, I just came from a wedding. I had such a great time. I think weddings are a very interesting time in a person's life because there's two perspectives you can have. When you are the one that's getting married, you are feeling stressed out the entire time. And the opposite is when you are attending someone's wedding. And when you're attending someone's wedding, you see so many of the nuances from the food, from the speeches, from the first dance, from the vendors, so many things that are going on. And weddings are such a great time for you to be social. There have been times when I have been invited to weddings, and plenty of times I just said, if I have to travel, I'm not going to go to the wedding. Sorry. But as I'm getting older, I'm starting to see that weddings are a great opportunity to see faces you haven't seen in a long time. Where I went to this wedding recently, and I saw faces I had not seen in 10 plus years. And you know, one thing that I realized, a lot of people are losing their hair. A lot. And not only that, but they're also gaining weight. Or the gaining weight part, I'm like, you could always figure that part out. You could always lose weight again. You know, you take care of yourself, go to the gym. But when people are losing their hair, it makes me feel so sorry for them because there are guys like back in the days, undergrad, they look so good, they look so suave, and now they're bald. And it's sort of like they have to adopt a new identity, right? And it's just one of those things where you don't want to ask people too much. Where in my wedding, a couple of 2024, it's 2026, can't believe it. So technically 2 years ago, uh, there was this one guy who saw a guest. It's like, he hadn't seen him in a while. It's like, wow, man, you're bald. Can't believe it, man. And this guy, he hates when people bring that up. He did not go bald because he wanted to. He just went bald. And this happens to a lot of people, and they are very, very self conscious about it. It's sort of like when you're talking to people and you're asking them about when they're going to have kids, they're trying and it's not working. They don't want more questions about that. It's the same thing with people's hair. So, this is one thing that I saw, especially since I haven't seen a lot of these people in 10, 15 years. A lot of people are going to lose hair. And if you bring it to their awareness, they are going to get pissed. It's also fun bonding with people at weddings because you can make a lot of introductions. If your wife just moved into a new place to be with you, then you want to go to as many weddings as possible because this is a great time for your wife to get integrated with other people that live near the area. Also, with weddings, people remember. Where I was talking to the groom and I asked him, hey, how many people are at this wedding? And he said around 300. But then I could sense rage in his eyes. He's like, there should have been 350, but 50 people, they RSVP'd that they were coming, but they didn't. I could tell that he was pissed. And it just taught me, man, if you are going to RSVP, come. And if you're not going to come, you want to call them, you want to give them a heads up. But these people do remember if you are not going to come. If it's a 500 people wedding, then for a long time, I would just show up enough to take a picture, then I would dip. I think that's even better than RSVPing and never showing up because these people remember. And I always thought, man, the bride and the groom, they're getting so much information. How do they even know if you were there? They know if you weren't there more so, right? And that's something that I've been realizing. Even for my wedding, I recall there was this one guy I used to look up to, and I invited him, and he said he was for sure going to be there. And during my wedding, I saw so many different faces, but I didn't see his face. And I asked, were you there? And he's like, nah, man, I had to deal with some stuff, so I couldn't show up. I'm like, man, at least tell me. Because you didn't even tell me. You had to wait until I asked you. And to me, that is not right. And if you are going to go to a wedding, you want to make sure that you are saying hi to the bride and the groom just to make yourself known. Especially if you're going to do one of those Irish goodbyes where you leave without telling anyone that you're leaving. You want to at least take one photo with them. And that was one of the criticism I had with this wedding, where the wedding was beautiful. The venue was great, the food was great, the people uh, danced great, dressed great, everything was great, besides one thing. They didn't give any opportunity for the guests to take pictures with the bride and the groom. The only time that I was able to take a picture with the bride and the groom was when I ran into them outside. And it was by luck. It wasn't by something that was planned. Where for my wedding, my Valima, we had a certain segment where people could take pictures with us. And whenever someone wanted to take a picture with me, I would always say yes. This is a big etiquette that a lot of people don't have, where they'll be a little too logical. They'll be like, well, I already took 200 pictures and I'm supposed to go eat right now. And you want to take a picture with me too? No, I can't take it right now. I would never do that. If people want to take photos with me when I'm supposed to be eating and it's my event, I'm going to be taking photos with them. I will constantly take photos with them until every person who showed up feels satisfied. That is how you are a good host. Or some people, they'll try to big league you. They'll be like, nope, I gotta do this. Nope, I gotta do that. Okay, okay, make it quick. Where sometimes you may have to say make it quick because you give one person a photo and multiple people are going to try to take photos with you. So you say make it quick, like that. But you want to make sure you watch your tone. You don't want to big league people because people are making a lot of sacrifices to be at your wedding. So whenever people are showing up, you want to do your best to give them the photos and ask them some questions too. Yo, how's your son doing? Yo, didn't you just start a new job? I think I saw something on LinkedIn. Oh, nice, man. Because the closest that you will ever be to a celebrity is on your wedding day. On your wedding day, everyone is going to be approaching you. Everyone is going to be asking you questions. Everyone is going to want a piece of you. So you need to be strategic when you're throwing your wedding. You need to make sure you block off a certain time where people can take photos with you. This is big. They want to market you on social media. So you want to have that block. And that was the one criticism that I had with the wedding. Overall, it was a great experience, very fun. But the only time I was able to take a photo, it was by luck. But yeah, don't big league people whenever they're coming to your event. Whenever you're throwing a grand event or even something small, you want to make sure you're giving people time. Or there have been a couple of times I've been to these parties and I'll go there and the hosts, both the husband and the wife, they're just running around the entire time. And they're running around so much where every now and then I'm trying to talk to them and they're like, "Oh, yeah, yeah." They're so stressed. And then they'll be like, oh, I gotta go. And they're just going. And for a long time, we excuse that behavior because we're like, the host is working so much. But I don't think that's a good behavior to excuse. I think if you are going to host something, you need to bring your A game with conversation, entertainment, and you really need to talk to your guests. This is one of the reasons why I say that catering is better than cooking. It's smart when people cater. When people are cooking so freaking much and they are cooking even more on the day of the event, and you never see the host. And then right when you're leaving, the host is like, "Oh my goodness, I never got a chance to talk to you. We should hang out." You're like, dude, I reorganized my entire weekend to come to this event, to hang out with you, and all you're doing is cooking the whole time. What's the point of that? Cooking is a lot like the grammarian position in Toastmasters, where sure, it does matter, but sometimes during Toastmasters, I recall the grammarian would get way too carried away. The grammarian is just focusing on every tidbit of grammar, not even understanding the story of what the speaker is saying. And I'm not saying the grammarian is not important. I'm just saying that the star of the show is the speaker and their speech, the substance. Very similarly, when you're throwing a party, it's not like cooking doesn't matter. Sure, it matters, but what really matters is the host. Are they doing a good job of entertaining, of leading, of making their guests feel important? If you think cooking is going to distract you from doing the main stuff, then you should cater. And I think catering is just smarter in general. I mean, if you're making over $120,000, let's say you're making that by yourself, automatically you should be catering. Now, if your wife is also making, let's say, $60,000 on top of your 120K, now you should definitely be catering, man. I don't know why some people make it such a prestige issue. They're like, no, it's my guest and I must cook. And they're focusing on the small things more than the big things. It's sort of like the grammarian thinking, the grammar is the king of the speech, not focusing a bit on the substance. It's just the same with these hosts that insist on cooking. Cooking is a big waste of time when you are hosting. I will say that. Especially when you're cleaning, you have to keep on heating things up, you're stressing. A big part of my childhood, I remember just leading up to house parties, I would get nervous because other people would get nervous. They're just panicking about cooking so much. And when you're cooking with that type of energy, you just start to uh, make everyone in the house nervous. Versus when you're catering, you're focusing on the other stuff. You're focusing a little bit on the decor. You're focusing on the theme of the event. Oh, everyone's gonna wear blue. Okay, let me get a nice blue shirt. Let me spend my day getting the perfect blue shirt. And on the day of the event, all you have to do is make a call. Hey, are you on the way back? Okay, do you mind picking up this food real quick? I'm catering, you know? And then they pick up the food, and voila, you're done. All the food is there. And people will ask, oh, nice, where'd you cater it from? You say the place. Heck, you and this caterer can build a long term relationship. Maybe they can give you discounts in the future, especially when you give them referrals from your house guests. It's so many great opportunities. I am team catering. And I think the new generation is also team catering. And I think when the new generation has kids and they're catering so much, the kids are going to probably enjoy whenever their parents are hosting because the parents are not stressing out about cooking so much. A lot of stuff nowadays, man, it could be automated. I haven't done my laundry in years. I always go to this laundromat. I get my clothes washed, dried, and folded. Before I was doing this myself. I remember I had to get all my clothes. I had to walk to this laundry machine. Sometimes it was full, so I would have to bring all my clothes back. Other times, the guy was emptying it when I got there, and I had to put my clothes in. I had to get some quarters. Oh, wait, I'm 2 quarters short. And I got to go to the bank. I had to do all this work for what? Nowadays, I spend 18 bucks and I get all my clothes washed, dried, folded. So sometimes when things are causing you a lot of stress, you want to see if the math adds up. And 18 bucks for getting my laundry done? Sign me up. Same thing with hosting guests. Sometimes I get the argument. Catering can be expensive. Let me make some stuff. You want to use your emotions as a compass. If you are not stressed out, if you're not going to cause other people stress, then go ahead, cook. But if you are stressed out, if you are going to cause other people stress, then cater. It's very similar to driving too, where Sometimes I'll travel to a new spot and I want to drive. Sure, I'll complain here or there, but I would rather drive rather than rely on Ubers a lot. But when I went to Thailand, for example, I'm like, I am not driving here. It's way too reckless. I'm definitely gonna hit someone. I don't even want that sort of mental bandwidth. My emotions are guiding me, right? And that's the cool thing with having money, where when your emotions are guiding you, now, if you have money, you can pull the trigger quicker. Where when you don't have money, your emotions are guiding you and you don't have the vehicle to pull the trigger. So your emotions are just in here and you're stewing in it and it doesn't feel good. So when you start making more money, you just have way more options, you have way more opportunities. Which brings me to another point. There is an art, in my opinion, to spending money. I noticed every time that I have spent money, eventually the money comes back and all of it comes back. I recall a long time ago, I quit my job, right? And when I quit my job, I had $44,000 in my savings account. And I had to, first of all, give $20,000 to my master's program because uh, my company had basically been paying for my master's program, but it came with a stipulation. I had to be in the company for at least 5 years after I completed the master's, and I was leaving the company immediately, so I had to pay the company and the master's program back. So I went from $44,000 to $24,000, and now I needed to rely on my business to make the money. And in the beginning, you have to spend a lot of money on your business. You need to get some training. You need to buy that high design for a website. You need to sometimes buy new clothes to make sure that you are dressing like a professional for branding and for your consulting. You need money to pay your contractors, right? So I'm just seeing the money dip, 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 dip. Luckily, some books were making me money. I was getting ad revenue money. I was making money through my classes, but there was a lot of dipping, a lot of increasing, dipping, increasing, dipping, increasing. And for a while, I was just spending and spending and spending because my personal life never stopped, right? I still needed to find my partner. I still needed food. I still needed to travel to other people's events. So my personal life was still dipping my bank account. My business was dipping my bank account. But as time went on by, I made all the money back. And I just recall one day specifically when I hit $44,000 again in my savings account, I just thought, man, I was spending, spending, spending. And I remember for a while, I only had $820 in my savings account. $820. And I actually had to ask my brother, hey, do you mind paying me we have this rental property together. Do you mind paying me the rental property money for next month, this month? Because if he didn't, then I was really going to struggle. And he was like, yeah, I got you. And due to that, it kind of got me along until my next Amazon and Audible paychecks came in. But I kept spending and spending and spending. And eventually, all the money came back. And I believe this has a lot of like teachings regarding metaphysics. I'm not going to go ahead and say that you should be reckless. I don't think at any point I was reckless, but I would never be cheap. I think being cheap is worse than spending a lot of money because when you spend a lot of money, you have more of a fearless, abundant attitude versus when you're cheap, you have this scarce attitude. And the new generation of cheap people are all having a similar archetype. These people are not poor by any means. They have a lot of money, but the archetype is that they're a little too financially intelligent. They talk a lot about stocks, about portfolios, about index funds, about savings. They probably watch a lot of Dave Ramsey. They talk a lot about money, a lot about investing. And this new generation of cheap people are super financially intelligent. And this is one of those situations where too much knowledge can be a bad thing. I recall when I graduated with an electrical engineering degree from the College of Engineering, I just could not ride roller coasters. because my mind was not just thinking about the experience. My mind was thinking about all the different short circuits that could happen and mess up the roller coaster. I was perceiving the roller coaster from the mindset of an electrical engineer, and this was making me really scared. Similarly, when you know a lot about money, you start to become scared, and this starts to create a ripple effect where you move scared. There's a lot of these guys that you'll see. They are roughly 35 years old, very good looking, in shape, has a good job, but they're single. They can't find someone even though they're trying. You may think, well, I'm talking with them, everything seems normal. They seem like good guys. What's exactly the problem? To see if they're super financially intelligent. And if they say, yes, I invest a lot, you want to hear about it? You want to hear my TED talk on it? Chances are that's why they're single. Chances are they're going on dates. All they're talking about is financial intelligence, how to be financially independent, the fire movement, all this stuff. It's not interesting to date at all. And then they're talking about uh, how to save more money. They're acting cheap without being consciously aware of it. The receipt comes, they're going through every single line item. They're negotiating whether they should pay tip or not. They're articulating all of this out loud. That's why these people are single. So I think it's better to spend a lot of money than to be cheap. Being cheap is a social sin, and you want to avoid to be cheap. Even if you're broke right now, man, there should be certain things you don't sacrifice. And when you keep sacrificing it, like you could be one of those guys that is like, look, I don't care how broke I am, I need my Friday McDonald's. I just need it. And I'm not gonna go off the value menu. I'm gonna order those double quarter pounders, man. Extra cheese. I'm gonna do that. It doesn't matter how broke you are. You still need to have that mindset where you will treat yourself to that. Because when you keep negotiating with life, then you start to become super cheap and you start to miss out on the important parts of life. And that is not a good thing. So, whatever you do, man, don't be cheap. Which brings me to another point, man. I always thought cheap people were poor. But this new generation of guys that I'm meeting that are pretty well off and they're cheap makes you just, it bends your brain a little bit. It's sort of like you go to this restaurant and the the people within the restaurant, they're giving you a great service. Food is great. The people are talking to you. They're asking you if everything's okay. They keep filling up your water. Everything is good. And then you leave them a one-star review. For them, it's just going to bend their brain. It's one thing if they didn't give you good service and you gave them a one-star review, but they gave you a good service. So why did you leave them a one-star review? It is going to bend their brain, and certain things you just need to accept it the way that it is. Where if you're a girl meeting one of these 35-year-old guys that are super cheap, even though they have a lot of money, you may be wondering, sort of like that restaurant owner. I was so nice to you, but why did you give me a one-star review? You have so much money, but why are you so cheap? It's just the way that they are. Actually, I don't even want to end it like that. It's not just because of the way they are. A lot of these guys were born in trauma. Chances are they had a very reckless 20-year-old self. Throughout their entire 20s, they were super reckless and they were hoping that they saved more money. I know plenty of people like this where in their 20s, they would always buy the rounds. They were always gambling. They were always wasting their money on stuff that would never compound. So their entire 20s, they wasted it. And in their 30s, they don't want the same mistake to happen again. Actually, I guarantee you, once they hit their 30s and they started to get the financial intelligence, they started to think about all the money that they spent frivolously in their 20s. And they started to think, imagine if I got all that money and I put it in the stock market. Imagine how much richer I would be. I guarantee any of these 35-year-old cheap guys that have a lot of money had a traumatizing 20-year-old self. And due to that, they are very cheap nowadays. And you, As the girls that are listening to this episode, you need to ask yourself, can you be with a cheap guy? A lot of people, they say, of course not. I mean, what kind of silly question is that? But you have to understand that this cheap guy of the new generation has a lot of other good things. They're often in shape. They're often very charming, very charismatic. They have a solid social circle, but they're cheap. So you got to ask yourself, what are you willing to compromise on? And what are certain things you're like, nope, I'm not compromising on that? Because eventually it may come down to, well, what's more important, the looks or the money? Because there may be a guy that you think is not good looking at all, but is not cheap. They're always willing to spend money on you, but they're not good looking. So you start to evaluate what is more important. It just nowadays, I feel for a lot of these girls because it bends their brain a lot when they see these guys that are 6 foot tall, charismatic, has so many friends, but are cheap. You're like, it doesn't make any sense to me, but it is a real thing. And being cheap does not only ruin your relationships, it often ruins your friendships as well. There have been so many times I'm over here trying to have a a hangout with a group of friends. I will suggest an idea, and the cheap guy is always the super vocal guy. Y'all really want to do that? And they're always introducing friction. So a lot of cheap guys will ruin social relationships. If you are cheap, you want to start to evaluate yourself. You want to ask yourself, why are you so cheap? And chances are something in your 20s happened. You want to try to make peace with that. You didn't know then what you know now. So you definitely want to make peace with that. And then you want to articulate out loud how your cheapness is affecting you. Not only your relationships, your social life, you like psychologically, you can't think big because you're always thinking about things going wrong. A scarce mindset always thinks limited thoughts. So you're thinking a lot of these limited thoughts and you're not able to think in a grand way because you are cheap. You want to articulate all the things that's wrong with you, not spending any money. And from there, you want to spend a little bit more. You want to find something in your life that is worth spending more money on. For me, it's always food. I will always get whatever I want to eat. I never try to budget that. I'm not going to order off the dollar menu if I am craving something outside of the dollar menu. So, having that practice in place where I'm like, I will spend whatever I need to on food. I'm not going to be silly with it, of course, but $15 to $20, I'm perfectly fine with that. Other people, they'll be like, 15 or $20. Did you try cooking? You'll save so much money that way. I don't think like that, man. If I want to cook, I actually want to cook, then I will cook. But if I want to eat out, that's what I'm craving, I am going to guard that. And the more that you guard that, and the more that you have this flexible buffer on what you are willing to spend on it, the more that you will be capable of not being cheap. It really is that simple. And ultimately, from there, you start to get better. You start to improve your relationship with money. You start to improve your relationships with other people. And then you start to see someone else that you can guide, someone else who is super cheap. And you're like, bro, I know you're trying to be frugal, but you're taking it a level too far. You're always thinking about the future. You're always thinking about how much this dollar will be worth 30 years from now. But what if you're thinking about this the wrong way? What about this dollar is not about what is going to be worth 30 years from now? How about this dollar is meant to give you the best experience that it can possibly give you today? Spend it today. So I do think there is a skill set in terms of spending. People always make it seem like people who spend money are these irresponsible guys that don't know how to spend anything, but they keep activity in the economy. And by having that activity in the economy, they make moves. The more that they're spending, the more that they're capable of having this love, love relationship with money, not this love hate relationship where the money is happy to be spent, but you hate spending it. You want that love relationship. And from that love relationship, you ironically attract more money in the long run. So, money is a topic that will coincide with communication skills plenty of times, where just like your job will too, where your job will either make you a better communicator or it will make you a bitter communicator. Where if you deal with hostile personalities all the time, you may be like, well, hostile personalities don't bother me. In my social life, I could deal with you guys. You guys are a piece of cake. You've gotten better. Or you deal with hostile personalities all the time at work. You're like, ah, I can't deal with them anymore. And you get bitter. So your work can influence your social life. Your social life can influence your work, just like your money will influence your social life. The more that you learn social skills, the more that you understand that everything is intertwined, everything is connected. When you learn social skills, it is what I call holistic intelligence. You learn critical thinking better, you learn creativity better, you learn emotional intelligence better, you learn storytelling better, you learn how to follow up better. You learn all skill sets the more that you invest in communication skills, and not in a blanket sort of way, not this slick sort of charisma that no one can explain. Aura. I can't stand when people say aura, man. When when people nowadays say aura, they try to take away any explanation skills. Where certain things should not be explained, it should be experienced. But the communication skills that I'm talking about, you're capable of explaining it. You're capable of turning it into systems. You're capable of not always agreeing with it, but understanding why it exists. That's how you become a scientific communicator. And from that level of being a scientific communicator, you are capable of understanding different personalities. You start to build a good intuition. You can read people well. And the better that you can read different personality types, the more that you can read yourself. Social skills, this communication with the external world, makes you more introspective as a person, and that is how you start to mature. So, communication skills, just knowing it and not knowing what you're doing, is not enough nowadays. You need to be able to turn the ambiguous into black and white, into formulas that you can repeat. Hopefully, you can teach others. With the Armani Talks brand, it's all about teaching engineers and entrepreneurs. But maybe you're watching this, you're getting inspired, and you're thinking about teaching communication skills to artists, to painters. Something you need to be able to do, especially if you ever want to sell your painting in the near future. So there are a lot of ways in order to master communication skills. And in the future, the better that you communicate, the more wealth that you will acquire. Eventually, your words will turn into numbers and it will build your net worth in the process. So the Armani Talks brand discusses communication skills for engineers and entrepreneurs. If you enjoyed this hour long talk, or almost an hour, then you definitely want to check out the Armani Talks free daily newsletter. Every single day, I am dropping short stories on a variety of real world communication skills principles, from public speaking to storytelling to emotional intelligence to the level up mentality, how to become anti fragile, how to deal with all these different personalities, how to be funnier. All the different micro skills you will learn in the Armani Talks free daily newsletter. Go on armanitalks.com/newsletter, sign up today. And it is the beginning of 2026. This is a year where a lot of great opportunities are going to be made. So start executing your plans. You made a lot of goals last year, 2025, and 2026 is the year that you are going to execute those plans. You're going to write it down, you're going to document it. If you made it this far, that's a crucial idea. Document your progress, because the more that you're documenting, the more that you're seeing how much you are improving. And the more that you're seeing how much you're improving, you're like, oh, wait, I'm actually seeing motion. That motion gives you more enthusiasm and you want to execute these plans even more. So, thank you very much for joining me today, and I will catch you next time. Once again, Subscribe to the Armani Talks free daily newsletter. Go on armanitalks.com/newsletter and sign up today. Thank you very much for joining me, and I will catch you next time.